I didn't use my elbows or my feet
I was in
once.
my best behavior, 16 minutes.
It was great. It was a great meeting. You ran a terrific.
How's your mom's place?
You got a piece of broken glass and another piece of wall, patio got kind of pushed in.
Anything happen with Milton? Milton hit her at all?
That's what got her, wow.
Oh, you were down. You were down there for
I was
her.
there for the first one.
Yeah, Helene.
She got water surge for that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That was just a pain in the ass. But
Our live streaming.
the second one, she got some
Good, how about you?
broken window, some debris flying, and then the wall was kind of alive again,
Hi,
but
Larry.
Hey, how you doing?
not so bad considering a
Yeah.
lot of other people's.
Oh, yeah.
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 Our place didn't have any damage.
I forgot to check with Mike and see how he made out. 'Cause he's in Tampa, in the Tampa area. You seen him on Facebook, Lisa? Recently? I'll check with him.
I said, oh boy, when you
Yeah.
started that this week, so I was thinking,
You ready?
Oh, wow. I was looking at the clock. Sure.
I'm watching that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I've got 7 o'clock. If you don't mind, we're going to stand and recite the pledge. Roll call, please, Cindy.
Sherry Lorenzo. Rebecca Anderson.
Here,
John Colfax.
Sure.
Anthony Gorski.
here,
Joseph Keith.
Here.
Lawrence Bertinetsky.
here.
Welcome, everyone. This is a meeting of the Planning Board of the Town of Lancaster. Please keep in mind that we are an advisory and recommending board and not a final decision-making body. At this point, we'll take a look at the meeting minutes from the October 2nd meeting. Any additions, deletions, or comments? No? Then I'll ask for a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. All right, we'll move on to the communications list. Okay. All right. Move on to our agenda. The first case is for 647 Ransom Road. Hello.
Good evening. Ralph Larigo, 101 Slade Avenue, on behalf of the applicant. I'll give you more paper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I know you're all very familiar with this, so I'll walk through it very quickly. The exhibit I've handed you, the first page of that exhibit is the survey of 647 Ransom Road and the adjoining lot that we're seeking to have the minor subdivision approved. The second is the Erie County tax map, which shows a number of properties along Ransom Road. Our lot having a frontage of 115 feet by 1.55 acres. And the new zoning, as you know, is 300 feet frontage by 3 acres. Not one of the 40 houses along there have that, that width or that acreage. The next exhibit is the tax bill. The assessor has assessed this lot at $72,400 for its fair market value. Without being an approved lot, it actually has very little, if any, value. The next is a Google map that basically shows you the location of the property. Now, more importantly, the next is Metzger Engineering. So I have a letter from Metzger Engineering. We've had Metzger go out to look at this site and see if the site is in fact buildable without creating any kind of water drainage on neighboring property. And you can read the letter, and not only does he say that is true, he says actually improving this property in accordance with the drainage plan that he has will benefit the neighbors and actually take water away from neighboring properties. The next exhibit is his drainage plan. And then I've attached, which I'm sure you're all aware of, the ZBA's decision wherein they have not only granted the variances that I requested, but they gratuitously granted the variances for 647 Ransom Road so that they also could come into compliance with the code because, as you know, they aren't in compliance either and would need to have the minor subdivision approval. So they have, as you can see from 1A, for reasons set forth in the attached rehearing decision, the ZBA hereby grants, with conditions, the following area variances and a variance of 1 acre relief for 647 Ransom Road, along with the variances that are necessary for my lot, the lot that I represent. So you see the protections that are built in for the neighbors that were built in by the ZBA. Hopefully today I can answer any questions you still might have, and I ask that you approve the minor subdivision.
Thank you, Mr. Larigo. Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
None. Rebecca?
No, this is what we needed, was
Yep.
a variance,
Okay.
2 variances.
Ed, anything from engineering?
No, I mean, I've not seen anything from Mike Metzger, but regarding subdivision of the land versus building on it, they'd have to have a whole site submittal for that anyways. So I would see it at that time.
Okay. Thank you. Emily, anything from legal?
No.
Matt, anything from the building department? I have no comment. Thank you, sir. Mr. Leary, anything?
I have no questions at this time.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open up to the public for any questions or comments. Please approach.
Good evening. My name is Ray Witzlaben. I'm representing my son, Paul Witzlaben, who resides and owns 647 Ransom Road. I don't have a problem with the subdivision because when Paul bought this property from Mr. Roop, he was supposed to have filed the subdivision with the town, and he did not. And this caused my son major consternation and problems because when he tried to get a roof on his home, there was a red flag on the property through no fault of his, through the fault of Mr. Roop for not properly filing the subdivision with the town. My son, unfortunately, was saddled with a red flag on his property, couldn't do the roof. It was a big, let's just say, bunch of red tape that he had to go through just to put a roof over his head because the roof was in disrepair and he needed to fix it. But no problem with the subdivision. There's flooding in that neighborhood at this particular point in time. And I can't believe anybody would reasonably and knowingly purchase that property to construct a ranch home. The cost involved in hiring an environmental engineering firm to plan the remediation, let alone the cost of the mitigation, and then, you know, the cost of the construction would make such a project financially unfeasible. I don't know what kind of plan you have from Metzger Engineering, who is not an environmental engineering firm by any means. Obviously, if you crown the property, grade the property, put in what Mr. Larigo last time described as a ditch to go to the culvert that already floods, you're going to exacerbate the flooding. My son's septic is 10 feet away from the property line of that wetland. So I can't believe it wouldn't cause flooding of his septic, which would be extremely expensive to replace, as most of you would know. My son does get water in the basement, especially in the spring when it rains more. Last year, he had to get a plumber to pump the basement and replace the sump pump because it was running constantly. So what's happening here is the mouthpiece for Mr. Roop, Mr. Larigo, is trying to assist him in selling this property so he could pay his taxes. So Mr. Roop can hire an attorney to represent him, but hasn't paid his county taxes, which are in arrears for $10,000, and the Lancaster school taxes are in arrears for almost $1,000. So I don't know if he really intends to have someone purchase this to build a ranch home, but if that happens, I guarantee you our friends at the DEC, the state DEC, will know all about this project, as will the Army Corps of Engineers and Buffalo Waterkeeper, Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper. I'm sure they'd be interested in preserving the habitat for the beavers, the migratory birds, even the snakes, and some turtles that may be an endangered species. So there's going to be significant cost if somebody wants to build a ranch home in a well-established neighborhood that already floods, and I can't imagine this wouldn't exacerbate the problem. I don't know what this plan is from this engineering firm, but I can't imagine this is not a type 2 action by any means. There needs to be a full environmental assessment of this project, as it would totally impact the neighborhood. So, you know, the subdivision should have been done years ago. I don't have a problem with that. My son Paul, the owner of the property, doesn't have a problem with that because it was not done properly initially by Mr. Roop. But construction of the home, you better think twice before you go into that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Pardon? Address. Excuse me, sir, what was your address again?
647 Ransom Road. I'm representing Paul Whitslade, the owner of 647 Ransom Road. My son. Right here.
He's representing his son.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Hearing none, look to the board for a motion.
Well, I think we were waiting on the variances.
Yep.
So I would move to approve the subdivision.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. No. None. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next project.
It just
It's
doesn't.
subdivision, that's all we're approving, subdivision. Yeah,
There's
subdivision.
permit issues with
Next project is Project 3014, Thelman Asphalt at 70 Gunville.
Nope.
Right.
All right, old school. Old school.
We have a site plan?
Okay. We're getting there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening, John Barniak with Carmina Wood Design, here with Eric Tolman, Tolman Asphalt Paving. This site plan is for their existing facility at 70 Gunville Road. They are proposing the construction of a 65-foot by 80-foot hoop structure that will enclose their existing topsoil processing operations on site. Site plan's pretty basic. Essentially, everything shown on there is existing condition minus the hoop structure. I don't believe that there were any zoning review issues. I believe that engineering review might still be pending. The structure, after it's completed, will most likely be in the range of 30 to 40 foot height. If there's any operation questions, Eric, I'm sure can add to that. And then tonight, we're just kind of seeking your input on the project.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Ask the board for any questions or comments?
It's just a fabric enclosure, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the hoop style barns that you see. Structural trusses for snow load.
I was just gonna ask that, what's the snow load?
Yeah,
When you get 4 to 5 feet in a day and a half, and it's always the heavy wet kind, will this come off for the most part, do you think?
it shouldn't. I mean, you can get different types of buildings that will handle more snow or less snow, but the building we would construct would have the ability to withstand the snow. Plus, it's rounded, so
It's not going to
it'll
stay.
fall off. Yeah,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah. And there's an existing one there now that's been up for 7-8 years. And
Aren't they coated as well? I think they might have some coating on them too.
I don't know if there's a coating for
On the
this,
material.
to make it a little
On the
slicker.
material, yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so, yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Ed, anything from engineering? I know you're in the middle of your, or have
Yeah,
you
I'm still reviewing it, and I'm gonna go back and pull out the old file from 3-4 years ago, and start with that, so that's where we're working from.
Emily, anything from legal?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Matt, anything from building department?
Well, you have a copy of my comment letter from September 27th. I'll advise the board and the applicant special use permits are required, and they need to be reviewed concurrently with the site plan review.
You're aware of that, correct? You're aware of that, correct?
Yes, we have.
Great, thank you. Supervisor Leary?
Just a question about the wind. How much wind can it take? Is there an issue with that since we've been having a lot of high winds in the area? What's it built for to withstand?
I don't know the exact specs.
I'll assure you that it will be designed to 115 mile-an-hour winds as a minimum standard in the state.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor Larry, or anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we'll open it up to the public for any questions or comments. Okay. Hearing none, I think we'll have to have a motion to table this, right?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table. We have to get these secret.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, we'll see you back here after we're done with our review. Thank you. Okay, next one, moving on to, I think Mr. Blood, that is 5309 Genesee Street.
The agenda had Weaver second. I just spaced on Mr. Lirigo's presentation. Bob Blood, landscape architect at GPI, representing the applicant who are with us this evening. We're here to introduce the proposed event center at 5309 Genesee Street. Parcel is, I'll wait for the site plan. So the project parcel is located along the eastern edge of Ellicott Creek and runs from the bridge basically to the intersection with Main Street and runs all the way back for approximately 15 acres. We could zoom out just a little bit. This is maybe enough to tell. Thank you, Cindy. You'll see one of the notable aspects of this property are the litany of environmental constraints that are in place. The blue line, first of all, is the floodway for Ellicott Creek. There's no new proposed development within the limits of the floodway. There is the serpentine 100-year floodplain limit, which the building has been removed out of, but the majority of the lower parking area would fall within that. There are also 3 delineated wetlands on the property. What's shown in green are 2 of them. Once again, the building has been moved out of limits of that. So with those limits in place, it sort of dictated the proposed layout, leaving us with about 3.5 acres to work with. The parking is limited next to the building. That's where the accessible and paved parking area would occur. There would be an access road down to the lower parking area, where there's about 70 spaces provided. Currently, there are 2 access points to this property, 2 driveways. Both of the applicants currently live on the property, and that would remain the case once this project is in effect. The driveway for Jim's house, which is located along the Genesee Street frontage, would remain. A driveway just to the west of his that connects to the back house where Jackie lives, that would be relocated through our preliminary consultation with DOT. They essentially wanted the access primarily for the event center to occur as far away from the intersection where the temporary, supposedly temporary emergency light now is, to avoid any backlog or stacking back through the intersection. So we've done that. We've moved it as far to the west as we can, allowing for required storm drainage improvements. That would be a paved access off the road. The main parking area and access road would be gravel and then paved again up adjacent to the building. There's no kitchen plan for this event center. It would all be through catering or food trucks. This area behind the building has been provided for a staging area for that type of operation. There's also a large patio area planned in the front of the building for ceremonies or whatever sort of social events that would happen there. We could move to the next plan, Cindy. We could talk about the storm drainage and utilities for the property. Yes. So shown here, the storm water will be collected up into the building, transported down to a basin pond area next to the creek. That would be the pink line. The blue and yellow lines that come in here represent where the public water, fire protection, and sanitary sewer would make their connections to the Genesee Street frontage and then run along their shared property line to the east with the Sacred Heart Church and then connect to the building. The green line would be the electrical feed, which currently comes in overhead to a pole. We would run underground from that point up into the event center building. Landscape plan next. This is a heavily wooded and treed site currently. We've tried to maintain as much as we possibly can based on owner directive, and I know this board's desire. The area shown in green represent those existing wooded areas and existing trees that have been identified through survey. The pink would be the proposed 25 trees that have been included into the proposed plan throughout the parking area and buffering with the church and the school. Last one would be the landscape. The proposed building design of this site is still in the concept stage. We do have a sketch that shows you basically the intent of what they would like this building to look like. It's about 3,400 square feet. A timber frame structure. The area in red would be enclosed. There would be porch areas off of each side on the wing. You can see in here that those would occur on either side. And then no kitchen, as I said, but a bar area in the front and the restrooms also in the front. Right now the building height is about 31.5 feet. That's a brief overview of the project. We are in receipt of comments from engineering and building. I know chiefly among them was whether the proposed use fits within the current zoning district. So we're here to discuss that and any other, your initial thoughts and concerns.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Blood. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. You're taking down about 170 trees. Have you done a tree survey to see what they are?
Well, we have a survey with the trees. We have not compiled an actual tree survey, no.
Well, we have this regulation called environmental resource area, and this is identified as one. So you may be asked to find out what's in there that you're taking down and planting 24 pines according to that. Doesn't even come close to breaking even. So I'd like you to consider if there's any way you can do less with the clearing. And you marked the flood way, I believe.
Yes, I did.
And the floodplain, I don't know what the depth of flooding would be at your facility. We have an excellent floodplain manager in this town. So.
Yeah, the floodplain was denoted, I'm sorry, but
I mean, an open space, I mean, a building like this is certainly better than trying to plan for housing or anything like that. That wouldn't work at all. But I'd like you to please consider what your elevations are should you need free ingress and egress.
yes. I mean, I would imagine that would be part of the floodplain development application.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. And just that, I'd be interested in knowing anything over 6 inches and what they are, because if it's all dead green ash, it doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
But if it's not, then it does. And I don't know what the status is of the wetland there. I mean, there's enough there for federal for sure.
Yes, it's,
And you know the standards for the state are changing on the 1st of January.
we do. And it's designated as federal wetland with a jurisdictional determination, which is why we're avoiding it completely.
Okay, okay. How about the state standard? The state standard never matches up, never, with the federal. So by the time we get through this, it will, there's a possibility the state standard could be reduced down to 7.5 or 8 acres or something less, depending on what gets through the legislation.
Mhm.
So just be aware
Okay.
that things could change for you. I hate for you to be caught unawares,
Okay.
and that's it for me.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Ed, I know you're in the middle of your reviews, but anything based off?
Yeah, well, the largest comment we had, and I don't know where it stands, we asked for an engineering report,
Right.
so.
And that's pending. One of the delays with the building being the concept stage is we need to know some more about the demand and the fire protection elements in place, because the pressures along Genesee Street aren't great.
Correct.
And we're bringing in a private hydrant, and we're just,
Yeah, okay.
we need some more information to verify that's going to work.
Fine. Yeah, so it's pending.
Yep, okay. Emily, anything from legal?
I don't have anything.
Matt, I know you're in the middle of reviews. You did your review?
I did, and the comment letter did go out on October 11th, and I just look forward to receiving the documentation. More importantly, the latter portion of the comments, so we do have a jurisdictional determination
Yes.
from the federal and not state.
But not
Well, right. And then the conservation area that's identified on the south end of that property, is that going to be recorded?
Well, that's it's something when we met initially on this project, it was suggested it would be desirable from the town's point of
Okay,
view.
so it may be beneficial to begin discussions with our town attorney, draft that documentation so that as we get closer, we have a finished
Right.
product for filing, and the same will go for the stormwater facilities.
Right. Right.
And as far as the zoning classification, I mean, you could reduce the district requirements and get it down to the AR to allow permitted uses. That'll be an action that has to be taken by our town board.
Along with the special use permit.
Pardon me?
And the special use permit.
Correct.
Thanks, Matt. Supervisor Leary, anything?
The question about the zoning, I missed this afternoon's meeting, we were talking about redoing the town code. Is there anything brought up at that point? Does anybody recall that will affect this project?
This,
Not related to this
No,
project.
this one, no.
They may request a reduction in the district.
That was it, thank you.
Okay, certainly. At this point, we'll open up to the public for any questions or comments. Okay, look to the board for a motion to table.
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. We will see you back again, Mr. Blood.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to project number 1751, Orville's Warehouse. 3979 Walden. Hello.
Christopher Strang from Colbeck's Inc. Here tonight to request approval for our approximately 32,000 square foot pre-engineered metal building warehouse addition. We're going to be adding on to the west side of the existing facility. This will be our third addition since we built the building in 2004. We added on to the west in 2009, and we did a lean-to on the south side in, I believe, 2019. So the building is going to be the same height as the existing building, the same configuration, the same ridge, roof pitch, color, everything as all the previous additions in the initial building that we originally did. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stein. Board, look to the board for any questions or comments.
I'm looking through, we didn't get through secret yet, did we?
Yes.
We did?
Yes.
I didn't make a note of that. When did we do that? Is that in 2023? My last note,
What date, Matt?
September 18th.
oh, okay, thank you.
Adopted by the town board last.
Right, okay. Then no.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? No? Ed, anything from engineering?
No, the comments were addressed.
Thank you. Emily, anything from legal?
No.
Matt, anything from building?
The only outstanding item is a response from the town line fire chief regarding the Hammerhead turnaround. He's still investigating the turning radius to verify whether or not it's going to be a conflict with his apparatus. I spoke to him earlier today, and I put some pressure on him to get a response to you.
Are we able to make a motion and vote on that without his,
It could be a condition of the recommendation, and, should there be an adjustment required, that it be incorporated in the plan.
okay? Thank you. Supervisor Leary,
No questions, thank you.
you're welcome. At this point, we'll open up to the public for any questions or comments. Hearing none, look to the board for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve with the condition that Matt stated relative to the fire chief.
That hammerhead turnaround.
response and Turning radius, and that needs to be changed, then something's gotta be changed.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Approve, say no. We'll make our recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. We will move on now to project 9546, 3972 Walden. Welcome back.
Good evening. Mark Romanowski from Rough Falls Craft here for the Broadway Group. Tara Bennett, who I know you guys have met before. She presented previously to you on this project. In general, we also have a PowerPoint presentation that we can run through that gives you sort of the background of the site. But to begin, this is a 10,000 square foot Dollar General on the corner of Walden and Quail Run. The zoning is MFMU. It's a permitted use as of right. The project itself, as far as the site plan, is largely consistent with the zoning code. There are a couple of variances that we end up needing, a couple of setback variances relative to the parking proximity to different lot lines. There's some angled lot lines, and as they relate to the parking areas, there's some side setbacks there. Also, probably the most significant request has to do with the parking variance. The town code requires one for every 100 square feet, which would require 106 to 107 parking spots, which in our experience with these stores is grossly in excess of what would be necessary for something like this. And the 35 spaces has proven itself to be a good number and one that we've used repeatedly on a number of stores of this size. So that's why we're proposing that particular number. Next slide, thank you. That's fine, jumping ahead, actually, it's just it worked out just fine. So I covered the kind of the introductory portion of it. So as far as the location here, ironically, we're right across the street from the project that just came before you. So we have a series of commercial and industrial uses in this area. Across the street behind us, we have a residential development, and there's a mix on this side of Walden Avenue of commercial, quasi-residential. It's a odd stretch, really. I mean, you have a lot of industrial zoning and uses in the area as you kind of progress further eastward on Walden Avenue. Next slide. Here again is the zoning map, and it is a bit of a rainbow, as you can see. And again, the zoning for this site is MFMU, and then you have the residential behind it to the north, and then industrial pretty much everywhere else. So south and east, you have industrial, and then you have more MFU as you move further down Walden Avenue. So Walden Avenue is, as you guys obviously know, this is a very commercialized area, and you know that's why the zoning is what the zoning is for the particular site. Next slide, please. The site itself is about 1.25 acres. Again, it is on a location that has a corner. So we have a corner of Quail Run with Walden Avenue. Adjacent next door is I believe a gun shop, but I think it's probably a mixed-use resident. You know, it's a residence of the individual as well as the gunsmith. And then as you cross the street on the southern port of the picture here, you can see the entrances that go into the Orville's warehouse. So that's your rough proximity of the site. There are residential houses directly to the north of the site. When we get into the site plan, we'll talk about the mitigation measures we're looking to do relative to that particular proximity. But this gives you a generalized sense of the site itself. Next slide. So here's the from Walden Avenue, from across the street, taking a look at the shot. Obviously, a little bit different time of year. We're not trying to rush winter around here. We all have plenty of it. But as you can tell, it's a cleared, graded site. Not really any vegetation on it. Currently, there's a little bit along the eastern edge of it, and I don't know if there's any on the northern edge. It's actually on this site. That could actually be the neighbor's property where some of that vegetation is, but it gives you a kind of a direct look at the site there. Next slide. Again, this just looking down Walden Avenue, mixed uses as you head west on Walden Avenue, and then again, same thing, mixed uses as you head east on Walden Avenue. Next slide. Across the street, very familiar with it. I'm sure everybody's very familiar with the Orville's warehouse. Next slide. And thank you very much. And this is just, again, the mix of representation, the mix of uses that you have. You have storage and warehousing, and you have daycare. So you have a variety of uses in this particular area. Next slide. And again, more of the mixed use in the neighborhood. Okay, next slide. So this gets to the site plan. And you know, the first thing you're probably going to notice here is that the access drive is coming off of Quail Run. This is for a couple of reasons. Number one, the DOT, anytime you're on a state highway on a corner lot, they're forcing you to access off of the side street rather than the state highway. That's been something we've encountered all over Western New York repeatedly with these types of locations. In addition, the town overlay district actually also suggests that where you have a situation like this, that you go on the lower class, is the language that's used in the code, the lower class roadway, which is why the Quail Run location was chosen. Obviously, it's further back. It's away from the island that splits Quail Run on the entrance and exit from Quail Run. And the way the store is oriented is the loading areas are to the rear of the store, so you don't have any parking at the rear of the store. Stormwater detention, because of the grade of the site, is located at the rear of the site as well. And then the parking is all to the front of the store up along Walden Avenue. One thing that we had incorrect in our application materials, we identified a potential variance for loading spaces. We don't have 2 dedicated loading spaces, but based on that area, Matt got back to us just recently and said that variance wouldn't be necessary given the sort of size of the loading area in the back. Relative to loading vehicles, the store usually has deliveries every couple of days to the site, so it's not a daily visit that they have truck traffic in there. Trucks that normally come in here are smaller box trucks. On occasion, you might have a short tractor trailer that comes in, and this T-shaped lot arrangement is fairly common for their stores and how they have their delivery trucks pull in and then back to the loading dock. The actual loading door and the dumpsters are at the rear of the property. So they're set back into the corner there. The dumpsters are fenced and screened, so they're protected from view. Additionally, on the north end, we have a fence, 6-foot fence going along the north end of the site. And when we move to I think if we move to the next slide, we go to landscaping. We do. So the next slide, you see tree plantings in that area. It's actually a fairly green site. We end up about somewhere around 40% or well under 40% for building coverage. So we're nowhere near the maximum building coverage just because of the amount of green space we can put surrounding the site. So the north end and the east end, those where we have abutting residential neighbors, we really try to put as much landscaping in those areas. And then the front is primarily where the parking areas are going to be located. Next slide.
You have no fencing?
Sorry, go ahead.
You have no fencing or landscaping on the east side?
If you bounce back a slide, I appreciate it. We take a look. We don't have any fencing there. There is vegetation along that side. It's always a double-edged sword. Do you take out vegetation and put in a fence? Do you not do that? Certainly, we'd be willing to look at that, to help further buffer the neighbor to the east side.
I'm just thinking, behind is zoned residential, but it is residential on that side too. So.
Correct, right.
And if I remember correctly, that side doesn't have, it has some vegetation, it's not heavily wooded.
Agreed, yeah, it's not heavily vegetated. So we'd certainly look at screening methodologies, whether it's vegetation, whether it's fencing. We'd certainly entertain, whatever the board's preference might be on those things. There's really very little or no activity on that side of the store, so no lighting, no entrances. It's as innocuous as you're going to get on that side of the store. But certainly, that makes perfect sense.
But it's still a very tall building close to a residence.
Actually, it's a relatively short building. So the building is about 12 feet at the rear and about 18 feet at the front. So it's about the same height as a single-story home.
Is that your normal height, or did you lower it for this?
This is fairly normal. Every store has got different elevations to it. Some will have peaks, some will not have peaks. Those will factor into overall height. But most of the buildings are, in around this particular height.
Sounds shorter than the one that you guys put on Broadway.
I don't remember. Tara, do you remember the height of the one on Broadway?
I don't remember specifically that height, but I do know that the rear of this building is probably going to be about 1 foot, like 8 inches, or maybe 2 feet shorter than the other store. It is a little bit lower.
Yeah, so this is actually a little bit newer model that they've done with the 10,000 square foot store. So there have been some revisions from what was done previously on the other site. The building itself is not particularly tall or massive. The bulk of the height is really from the front facade treatments, not the building itself.
So we realize this is just a presentation, but when you come back, we would certainly like you to at least take a look, before you come back, take a look at that eastern side of the lot and see if there's something you can do as far as...
Absolutely. Do you guys have a preference as far as vegetation versus fencing? We're open to either. There's enough room there to do vegetation, evergreen plantings, that kind of thing.
Guess my thought would be that we have no control over whether or not the vegetation is going to live, and the fence is probably more
Permanent.
For the lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we
just
could
think something needs to be there. I'm not sure which, though.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, and before the next meeting, we'll come back with a suggested revision we'll put it in the landscaping plan, just to make it a little bit clearer.
If you're clearing on your side and you're careful about what's on next door, there's still always an effect on the root systems of somebody else's shrubbery and stuff.
Sure, you drive a tractor over it, doesn't it?
Yeah, you cut your tree down and half theirs goes. Can't be helped necessarily, so I think possibly a fence with and maybe some landscaping on the inside that gets taller. I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we did at the rear there. We've got some tree plantings back there.
And then maybe
so-
you've got room for a couple trees
Sure.
on the east side.
There's some deciduous trees that'll go a little bit taller and
Yeah,
and
just
provide a
for
screen.
that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can certainly look at that as a mitigation measure on that side, no problem.
No elms. No elms.
Oh, you can plant elms, there's new varieties. He said no elms, but there's some new varieties out there that don't die. The only thing I don't like are non-natives like ginkgo,
Well, duly noted, certainly.
you know? Just see which can go with something that's a
Yeah, native and it'll tolerate those.
native to New York State.
Yeah.
Native to other states. Native to New
Sure.
York State. They're slow growing, but oaks and maples work well. It's just
Mhm.
A lot of times, companies don't like them because they have to deal with leaves.
Sure,
And,
sure.
oh, well.
Yeah.
You have landscaping companies who come and take care of your properties. They're always kept up.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, they were already proposing deciduous trees in the rear of the lot, so I don't think that's.
And that should hold true for the proposed trees as well. Make sure that they're native species.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely. We'll detail that. I'm not sure we detailed it on the landscaping plan. I don't remember off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, we're
I'm
probably
not
early.
sure, I'm not sure what you have on your plan schedule because the key and the signs on the map, to me, don't quite line up. And I'm not so sure, that might be a typo.
We'll make sure it's detailed, make sure it's native species when we resubmit for the next meeting with fencing and screening, whatever we're going to do on that east side. So, we certainly welcome, further feedback on that.
You've got like Serviceberry on there, that's fine, but you might want to mix it up,
Sure.
you know? And then my only question on this is, I haven't been right at Quail Run in this week. Last time I was there, I went to look at this site. Their island sits back plenty of space for a truck to make the corner. Did you check that?
I don't know that we checked it, but we can absolutely put some turning radiuses in there.
Yeah, because
There's a pretty steep, Becky, if you don't mind, there's a pretty steep arc here that we've got on the site plan to
it's
help
the
make
getting
that.
off Walden past the island. If they're coming in, making a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn.
Oh, I see, coming off of Walden from the east, making the right, okay.
When subdivisions were going crazy in Lancaster and people were building them all over, everybody wanted their island for their subdivision name, and it took a few to get wiped out by truck traffic and stuff with the
Snowplows,
vegetation to say, no, they were too close to the street, they weren't leaving enough turn radius, and they were vegetated left for the town to maintain. So things changed over time with different subdivisions. Now you might have a rock with a name on it
Right.
and set back.
Right.
So you might want to check that because I cannot tell you how easy it is to turn in or not.
Yeah, we'll take a peek, we'll see what that measurement is, we'll take a peek at
Because
it.
that, you might end up limiting the size of the trucks that come in.
Yeah, again, the size of the trucks that they typically have are not very large, so
Right.
they're a little bit more maneuverable.
You never know.
Yep, understood, but we'll look at it. That's fine. Any other questions on the site and landscaping plan? I don't want to jump to elevations yet and make sure we work through.
Well, I think what's going to be important is the way it looks, because I recall the neighbors behind you had some problem with the project next door to the west.
Okay.
It was a day school, they wanted ice cream parlor, they wanted a playground, and, the neighbors were pretty vocal.
Sure.
About what was going to go there. Eventually, I think it turned out fine. If you look at it, it looks great, but the design, I think, is going to be important, and the signage. I think what you did on Broadway in Bowen a couple of years ago turned out fine, but anything you can do, I personally feel, to jazz the thing up will be important.
Well, yeah, and we can certainly look through, I mean, that's part of this process here, is to look through those issues, and that's probably a great segue to the next slide. So here's the proposed elevation on the building. It's a combination of hardy board, so the horizontal siding is a hardy board product, and then the base below the lintel is a brick veneer, And then they have simulated windows, which is not unusual in the stores. We don't want just big slabs of the building, but at the same time, they have coolers and shelving and that behind those sides, so they try to break up the elevation with that. And then you notice a little bit different center entrance look. This is, again, the newer model that they have for their stores. So a little bit different look to that, and that's a metal product, if I remember correctly.
It's actually going to also be the hardy board.
Oh, it's a vertical hardy board, okay.
Vertical like a board and batten, just
Gotcha.
to kind of break up that elevation and dress it out more.
Yep. So that's your front elevation. You can see the screening there in the back corner for the dumpster, so get a little bit of sense of what that side looks like. And again, we'll come back with some fencing or landscaping along that side for screening. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is the elevation from kind of the other corner. Just gives you a feel of the parking lot, main entrance, how the site functions in general. I don't want to have you jump to the next slide, but I'm pretty sure the next slide will show the western side of the building, which has more of the simulated windows along that particular edge. So if you guys are ready, this is the rear. So this is the rear of the building, pretty innocuous. Entrance door to the storage area. There's another man door to the right of it, but that's about it. So not a lot. I don't know how much of the neighbors are going to see that.
The slide above that's actually the one from Pheasant Run, isn't it?
Yeah. So we got this Pheasant Run's on the left there.
Those fake windows along that.
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
So how big is?
Quail Run. Sorry.
How big is the Broadway and Bowman, or Broadway, the new?
That one's smaller, isn't it?
No, I think that was also a 10,000.
It's 10? Okay.
640 square
Do you
foot.
remember how many parking spots you had in that one?
It also was 35. The zoning board approved the variance for that.
I was
store.
on
Yeah.
the zoning
Actually,
board at the time.
that one I did. Yeah, I remember.
I didn't remember the number, but I know that you came in front of us for a variance.
So are these, this is the same store, different name?
Well, it's the same, Broadway Group's the same developer, it's a Dollar General, it's just a different, another location for them.
I will say, Mark, if you don't mind me.
No, please, sir.
You may have noticed the signage is different. It's called a DG Market, and so what they're trying to do is add in some additional fresh foods and vegetables. And so there would be additional produce, things like that in the fresh meats. So it is kind of expanding that merchandise, I guess. So there will be a designated spot to expand those goods to the community.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Is that just for new ones, or are they gonna change some existing ones as well?
I have seen them change some of the existing stores that are due maybe for a remodel or an upgrade, but they do look at all of their internal metrics, and so not every single store would qualify for this arrangement and this assortment of products. So this market, the DG Market prototype, is one where they have to have a certain amount of households and visits that they would expect to come and support the store. In some of the lower population areas, they're not able to bring in this level of product.
Okay.
All right, so any other questions on this particular rendering? Okay, why don't you try the next slide? That's, okay, so we're back to, this is the back, again, the back side of it. Limited lighting just relative to the man door itself. And again, remember, you've got behind that, you have trees and a 6-foot fence, so a lot of this is not going to be particularly visible to the neighbors.
So that is those showing wall packs on the east side?
Yes.
Okay.
They run with the store, turn off at 10 o'clock. If there's concerns of light impacts to that neighbor, because they're the closest, we can look at potentially removing those from that side. I mean, again, we're not going to have anybody over there, so it's not really a security issue.
If you come back, could you do us a favor and show, say, approximate locations of the houses on the east and the north?
Yeah, certainly. Yep, we could do a area map for you. How about that? Yeah,
Have a better idea of
Yep.
how far from the property line
Yep.
those are compared to where this building is.
sure, we can absolutely do that. We can give you some, an area map with aerials. Not a problem.
So I think one of the comments that Joe made is the new, or the, it's no longer new, that the
Broadway
nursery
store, yeah.
that's across the street there, is there any way to try to take some of the components from that and put them into your building? I mean, I know this is your elevation and you like to do that everywhere, but maybe just take a look at that and see if there's something that you can take from there and bring over to your building to try to marry them up or complement them somehow?
Well, certainly, if there's elements of that store that you like, we're absolutely willing to consider it and see how we can incorporate it. You know, you got to, at the same time, we want to be careful. We don't want to,
I understand.
kind of create a
I
mess
certainly
by putting
understand,
things
yeah.
together, get a bit of a Frankenstein sometimes.
Right,
But,
right.
yeah, that's absolutely something we can look at. Color palette, we're pretty open on color palette, too. You know, we're showing as neutral of a color palette as possible, but we have flexibility on that as well. And, you know, I don't know if you're looking for any additional treatments to this rear elevation. You know, it's again, double-edged sword. You do something there that draws more attention to it than trying to make it less noticeable. But you know, we can look at that if necessary.
We're just trying to be sensitive to the neighbors.
Absolutely. I got it.
I think what we asked for over there was a wainscot or a water table, which I think we have over there. But
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
think
that's
the
an easy
siding
element.
pattern's just different, that's all. I think it's still hardy panel, but it might be panels and board and batten more.
Could be a
I don't
vertical
remember
panel
for sure.
orientation. Okay.
Actually, I don't mind this because I think with the horizontal, it's more similar to what you have on the adjacent houses.
Yeah, you're not likely to have board and batten.
Yeah.
Right. But we can, if that's the way it goes, we can flip it. It's a similar product, so.
Take a look at what's out there.
Yeah, we'll look at Broadway again, and we'll look around the neighborhood a little bit more, but trying to, again, try to keep the scale down as much as possible. Okay, next slide. I don't know if we have another slide. That might be it.
That's the last one.
Yep, that's it. Okay. Yeah, so we may have accidentally, if you go up to, no, that's the front elevation. I thought we may have skipped over a slide, so my apologies. So that's the overall presentation of the store. As we said, we're going to come back to you for the next meeting with some more details, more landscaping and screening on that side. We'll take a look at the elevation elements that you've asked us to take a
Cindy,
look
can you
at.
go back to the front ones, please?
There you go.
How about a few people or something? And I say that not sarcastically, I'm trying to.
Just for scale?
I'm trying to get a better sense of scale.
Yep.
Because that building looks a lot shorter to me than when you drive past that one on Broadway.
Yeah, we'll look at the height of the Broadway store and just give you a comparison. Again, these stores, as Tara mentioned, they're a little bit lower, and depending on what you did with that front, because I don't remember Broadway off the top of my head, it's been a while ago since we did
I
it.
think part of it is
Yeah, part of it might be taller.
where your eye level is looking at this. I think if you're going to bring renderings in next time, please show the rendering from a normal person's eyesight level.
Yeah, we can do ground
Get a
level.
better sense of how tall is tall.
Yeah, we can do ground level. No
Building
problem.
on Broadway is 20 feet high, according to their construction drawings.
20.
So it's a couple feet taller than what we're proposing here.
So this is shorter.
Yeah, so slightly shorter.
To me, that's the biggest issue with this going where it is the sense of scale of this building compared to the sense of scale of the residences on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, your footprint's obviously a lot bigger versus a residential house that might have 1,000 to 2,000 square foot footprint. Height, the two-story homes are all obviously going to be much taller. But we can help mitigate that with screening and design and elements like that.
I think we need to see an accurate representation of what we would see standing there.
Not a problem. We'll revise this and we'll make sure we get also the Quail Run I thought we had a shot from that elevation, but we have the elevation in the materials, but not necessarily a perspective from that. But we'll look at that too, because that's what the neighbors would be driving by. Okay. Any other questions board has at this point in time? No? Okay.
Anything else from the board? No? Ed, anything from engineering?
Well, it's still being reviewed, but can you get back to the site plan for a second? We're in the middle of review. I think, well, actually, I just sent comments out today. I know, Tara, did you get the comments?
Yeah, we
Okay, yeah, they went out there, yeah. I know you're proposing to rebuild part of Quail Run. So, you know, it's gonna be important to see what your sections, what you're proposing for a section, so I can review it with the highway super.
okay.
And, you know, I believe you're proposing sidewalks down Quail Run side?
We have not specifically added those to the plan, but we were.
I would suggest you put sidewalks, yeah, I would suggest you put sidewalks down that side
Okay.
to tie into the sidewalk on Walden.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then with that, from Walden into the entrance is required to have a sidewalk connection with a crossing in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, we can include that. That's not too difficult.
And that's required by code. My thought is, because you have a sidewalk going across the front of the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
At the west end of where that sidewalk ends, I would suggest another crossing across your drive parking area out
Yeah, we can strike
out
that.
to the new sidewalk.
Sure, we can.
So
yeah.
if somebody were walking from the subdivision down to the store, they were waiting.
Coming in here and coming
Yeah.
across, that's what you're
Yeah.
thinking, Ed? Okay.
Yeah, delineated on the pavement so that people
got a
driving,
pedestrian
know there's a
pathway.
crosswalk there.
Yep, okay. That makes sense.
The rest of the engineering comments you got, I mean, they were more drainage type comments.
Right. Yep, we're looking into that.
Okay. Thanks, Ed. Emily, anything legal at this point?
No, not at this time.
Matt?
I did provide a comment letter on October 11th, reiterating the public sidewalk along the western portion of the property connecting the existing Walden Avenue. I would agree with the comments for the ADA access from both sides of that public walk into the building. Of course, the stormwater facilities, we'll have to begin to draft documents incorporating the below-grade capacity area.
Southwest corner, correct.
Yeah, we're going to maintain that as well. I made recommendation for the screening, being sensitive to that residential and perhaps a tall fence, with some other bermings and things of that nature. So, you know, the comments did go to this planning board. You may want to take that into consideration based on any other input that you might have. Other than that, you know, it's pretty clear. We also need to identify some sort of a preparatory cross-access agreement moving easterly from your lot should there be future development on the Walden Avenue site if and when those residential occupancies redevelop along that state highway, just to encourage cross connections as opposed to additional driveways should those properties convert to the commercial uses.
Yeah, well, that we'll have to take back to the client in consideration. I would be a little concerned about drawing more traffic through Quail Run necessarily, but understand and appreciate the comment, certainly.
With the Access Management Overlay District, it suggests that.
Right.
To reduce that, you know, to allow the off-street traffic.
Yep, no, got it, absolutely. And then, you know, as far, the only thing on your comment about Matt, about the berm, on the north side of berm's probably going to be problematic with the stormwater detention pond in that area. I mean, we don't have a ton of room back there to slope a berm. So I think the fence and with the trees is probably the best solution there. And unfortunately, probably on the east side, it gets too narrow as you get to the front of the building to slope off a berm there as well, and might create drainage problems and challenges. So, but fencing and vegetation seems to be what I'm hearing from the board anyway, so.
Higher than 6 feet, you can go 8 feet. 8 abuts a residential neighborhood, so that they can go.
I specifically copied it right out of the code in the
Yeah.
comment letter so that you can review it and consider.
Okay, is this 6 or 8 feet that's allowed, Matt?
6 6 feet is typical, but for buffering residential and commercial occupancies, 8 feet could be requested.
Okay. I mean, that would certainly help. I mean, now you're
Definitely see that.
two-thirds, you've got two-thirds of the building covered by the fence.
Yeah, the only other thing, when
Three-quarters.
I'm in a place where I'm behind someone's fence with a commercial business the other side, and the wall pack lights, they don't necessarily put light off of the site, but that light gets you right in the eye. So you might need to change the design of your wall packs, or maybe lower them a little bit, or eliminate them on the east side, for future, are they on all night, or do you?
They go off usually within an hour or so of closing, so 10 o'clock closing, so by 11 or so, they go off, but.
Maybe the one on the back could be lowered between the two doors.
Yeah, or we could just do a downward fire. I mean, the
Yeah.
point of that is to have
Well,
light
security
around
at
the
that
security
man
around
door.
at that man door.
Right.
The other option on the backside would be to take the lights off the building, put it on a pole on the north side of your pavement.
Yeah.
And point it towards the building.
Right.
Yeah, but then you might have a taller pole up against the neighbor, so it's,
Yeah,
you know.
trade-off, but.
Right, it's trade-off.
That's.
But I think, we'll start with, let's take a look at dark sky compliant downward firing lights, maybe along the back of the building. And maybe if we feel from a security standpoint, we still need them on the east side, same thing. If they're downward firing, you're not, I know exactly what you're saying, Becky, like, right. It's not spilling onto their lot, but they're looking at a light all night.
Yeah.
I got it.
Thank
So, we can look at changing the wall fixtures there to be downward firing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Supervisor
Anything
Leary.
else?
Sure, the board should be aware that we're currently looking at town code in different areas. Multifamily mixed use has been a big problem, to this town board. So we are going to be having public hearings in November on how we're going to change the town code, and also on the comprehensive master plan. So again, I'm not sure how this particular store is going to fit into that, especially if we change the multifamily mixed-use status in these particular areas. So I'm assuming there's going to be no vote on anything tonight, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Again, it should be, by the end of November, we should have our new town code set up for the entire town, and we'll see how these multifamily mixed-use zoned areas, what the change is going to be to some of them, or perhaps most of them. We're working on that right now, but there will be a public hearing, and it will be taken care of, most likely finished in November.
Cindy, when was coordination done on this?
On this project, it is not.
Hasn't been started yet, so we're absolutely good.
Yeah, we're waiting to see how this finishes up and if it fits in.
Yep, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. You're welcome. At this point, we'll open up to the public for any comments.
Well,
I have to make sure I do it. Okay, I will look to the board for a motion. The table?
I'll make a motion to table. We can't go any farther tonight anyway.
Yep.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too, thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to open business. Anything that the board would like to discuss at this point? No?
Cindy, you sent out an email about training.
You stole my thunder.
Right, well, a new training, and then the resolution as to what's acceptable training is. I'm just assuming everything that you bring to us is on that level that is acceptable to the board.
Yes, the town board passed a resolution at their last meeting, and then it did include the training that was brought up by Member Gorski regarding the webinars, and yes, as long as it is the information pertaining to the zoning board or the planning board, that information then is training that you should be taking.
Because every once in a while, I know Hodgson Russ throws out a municipal law day and it'll have like 3 credits or 4 credits available.
Yes.
And that should,
Yeah.
okay.
That is what should be focused on, those subjects, so that everyone is up to, training on.
Sure. Thank you.
those
Yeah, we just had it memorialized by the town board, so,
Right, and that's what,
yep.
I printed that one out.
Yeah, I asked because a lot of those are available through webinar that you can just sign up for, so.
Yep.
Right, so I can't remember which federation of towns and villages has webinars that are like noon to 1, or
Right.
1 to 2, fit in a lunch hour. Thanks.
Ed, anything from engineering? Emily, anything from legal? Matt, building?
Sir?
Supervisor Leary, anything from the town board?
No, but thank you for your service.
Last thing I want to just go over here is to make sure that we take a look at the calendar for next year, that the planning board meeting schedule that everyone has seen before. And we had comments from our board, and this is what it looks like. I would like to propose that I'll put a motion out there to approve this moving forward.
I'll make a motion to approve because I already put it in my Outlook calendar.
Okay. Look for a second.
I happen to be deeply invested in Tony's Outlook calendar.
Okay.
So I second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. We will pass it on to the town board. And at that point, we did training and we did the schedule. Was there anything else?
Everyone did receive that Alberta Place Senior Parking Training notice. That's going to be on the 22nd.
I'll have to look at that.
That was all I think I had on my list. So I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we'll second it, because
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Approve, say no. Meeting adjourned.
usually it's unanimous. Considering we moved right along tonight, you just did good, but the record is over.
Oh, of course it's over there.
This was a full
I
calendar.
was always faster than.
This was a full calendar. Yeah, you're never faster. Okay, we'll go with that.
Subdividing, you darn right, because yours is being corrected too.